Hey Savant Squad, what is happening? Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Savant Life and also search for my page on Facebook and give it a big old thumbs up.
Hey, what is happening YouTube? Welcome back to another brand new episode of The Savant Life. Yes, it is one of those things that happens once in a blue moon, but I'm actually making 2 videos within the space of 1 week. I wish I could only be more regular on YouTube, but you know how it goes with work and everything else that keeps me busy. But any which ways, the dust had barely settled down from the grand launch of the Royal Enfield 650 twins, the Interceptor and the Continental GT. We were just coming to terms with all of that awesomeness, and guess what happens? The Jawa guys, backed by Anand Mahindra, decide to make a complete splash. The very next day, within less than 24 hours, they decide to launch, or rather I should say relaunch, the Jawa bikes from the 1980s. Now of course, those of us who had uncles or cool neighbors who had these kind of bikes would remember them very, very well, especially that classic maroon Jawa with all of the beautiful chrome has been relaunched at a mouth-watering price of 1.65 lakhs. We're going to talk about that, compare it to the Royal Enfield bikes, and speculate about the future of Jawa, which used to be Ideal Jawa, now it's just plain old Jawa. We're going to do all of that in this video coming right up, right here on the Savant Life. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get this show on the road. Okay, so before we get started with the video, let me just tell you about a little something, a cool anecdote if you will. Not too many people know that the actual pronunciation, the correct and the authentic pronunciation of this Czech Republic brand is not Java, but it's supposed to be Java. Yes, you heard me right. The J is supposed to be pronounced as Ya. But of course, when they launched in India in the 70s and the 80s, there was no internet and there was no way for them to educate a bunch of people across the country, from the north to the south, from the east to the west, that hey, listen, even though we say J, it's actually supposed to be Ya. So I guess the joke was on them, and they decided to give up and just start calling their bikes and their brand what we have come to now know as Jawa motorcycles. Fun little fact, courtesy the Savant Life. But anyways, moving on from fun facts to just plain old facts, let's do a little bit of news reporting over here. I'm going to put on my reporter, my journalist hat, and I'm going to tell you that the Jawa motorcycles, so the Jawa line of motorcycles, has been relaunched in India by this group called the Classic Legends. And it's 3 different groups coming together, a private equity firm, the Rustom G group, and of course the Anand Mahindra group, which bought over the brand. And it's the confluence of these 3 diverse forces who all bring their own unique skill sets and their strengths to the table that has led to such a smooth and seamless relaunch of the Jawa motorcycles right here in India. And of course, you have 3 different motorbikes. You have the Classic, the Jawa, no prefixes, no suffixes, it's just the Jawa, that classic old motorcycle with the maroon paint and all of that beautiful chrome. That is their flagship model, and also right now their most expensive one. It comes in at about 1.67 lakhs ex-showroom. And then you have the Jawa 42. Of course, the name is inspired from the movie The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wherein 42 is the answer for all of the important questions in life. Yes, you heard that right. And out of the 3 bikes, I would have to say that the 42 is my personal favorite, because it really is the iteration of what I think Jawa would have evolved into had it been in production for the last 25-30 years. And finally, the most appealing, the most eye-catching on the stage was the Perak, which is also a bobber. However, this bike is not being launched just yet. It will be eventually sometime in the early part of 2019. Also, while I'm on a roll, let me provide you with a little bit of a history lesson, a bit of a retrospective, if you will. Back in the 80s, when Jawa motorcycles were sold in India, it was done by a group called Ideal Jawa. It was manufactured in Mysore, and the group that was handling the business side of things was the Rustom G group based out of Bombay. Now, all of these years later, the company having gone out of production and now come back, the Rustom G guys are still involved. In fact, the group's successor, Boman Rustomji Irani, of course not to be confused with the Bollywood actor, is the one who is at the helm and is working very closely with Anand Mahindra to bring the bikes back. In fact, from all of the launch photos, you will see him right there wearing an off-white blazer, and believe it or not, this guy is actually close to 50 years old. Explain that. I guess the love for bikes keeps you looking young, and that is definitely a great thing to know about. Now, also what you might not know about is that it was exactly this group, Ideal Java, that actually sponsored the international bike rides of Deepak Kamath, yes, the legendary biker from Bangalore, who's done all kinds of crazy tours and expeditions way before it was cool, way before you had cell phones or GPS connections or even the KTM line of bikes. He was doing this as an OG back in the 80s and the 90s, and he approached Ideal Java to provide him with a couple of bikes, and they more than gladly did. He has a great relationship with Boman Irani and all of those guys. And how do I know all of this? It's because I listen to all the right kind of podcasts. You can hear more cool stories and anecdotes like this from Deepak's mouth itself on the Rotor Mouth podcast on the IVM network. If you haven't checked it out before, go ahead, take a look, and you can thank me later. But anyways, coming back from the 1980s to the present day reality, which is 2018, which is when the bikes are being relaunched, the manufacturing of it is going to be taking place at Pithampur in the Mahindra plant, and that is definitely good news because I think those guys have done a fantastic job with the Mahindra Mojo line of bikes. Even though it's not been a runaway success, I think that is a very, very underrated yet solid tourer that we have in the country, and I hope they will continue with those stellar standards of production with the Java bikes as well. Now, of course, they're working overtime behind the scenes in order to set up their dealership network. The dealerships are not yet open to the customers right now, but there are going to be 64 different stores across the country, and the test rides of the bikes and the delivery is going to be happening in February 2019. However, if you're one of those early innovators, if you just can't wait till then, you just have to go ahead and get your fix. You can now also book these bikes by just going online and paying a small amount of 5,000 rupees. Now, talking about the bikes itself a little bit, let's talk about the Java and let's talk about the 42. Both of these bikes are going to be based on the same 293cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, and even though this is the same engine from the Mahindra Mojo, it's been modified and customized quite a bit in order to suit the personalities of both of these bikes, and both of these bikes are very, very different in their outlook, in their appeal, and the kind of audiences that they're going to appeal to. I think the Classic Java is going to be the kind of bike of choice for a lot of guys who grew up in the 90s looking at their elder brothers or their cousins or their uncles ride these really cool bikes, and these guys would typically be in their 30s or mid-30s right now, and they would like to prefer something that is more classic, that is more vintage in its look and feel, and makes them feel more grown up and enjoying something that is meant for the gentleman, so to speak. Now, on the other hand, the 42 I think is going to appeal to a slightly younger crowd, people who might not necessarily have direct connections to the Java legacy, but they just like the look and feel of the bike, the fact that it looks so retro and rugged at the same time, but it's also a no fuss, no frills kind of a bike. It's not overtly pretty, it doesn't have too much of chrome. In fact, most of the color options available for the 42 are in this muted accents, and I think that makes it very easy for you to not really obsess over the bike, enjoy it to its fullest, have a carefree attitude towards it, and yet still have something that people will turn around and take a second look. And finally, now let's talk about the Ace Up Java sleeve. Yes, the dark horse, the wild card, whatever you want to call it. The European-styled bobber, the Perak, which is going to be hitting the Indian markets in early part of 2019. This is an incredible looking bike. It sets itself apart from the rest of the competition. Amongst its own siblings even. It is slick, it is bold, and it is unapologetically old school. This is the kind of bike that puts style and attitude over functionality and comfort. The kind of bike that you instantly fall in love with at first sight, but don't immediately have the resolve to bring it home. This is the kind of bike that you look at when your friend has it and you drool over it, but at the same time you're not completely sure if you have the kind of commitment, dedication, and passion to put up with something like this, because it is going to take a lot. At the end of the day, all of the fine things in life come at a certain price, and I'm not just talking about the monetary price, the kind of price that you pay in terms of comfort, in terms of functionality, in terms of just day-to-day use. And the Perak, as great as it looks, I don't think is an everyday bike. It is more of a passion project. It is more the kind of bike that you just take out on the weekends and have a whale of a time with. Also, talking about the specifications of the Perak just a little bit, it is going to come with its own single-cylinder 329cc. Wait a minute, am I getting that right? or 334cc actually. It's going to come with its own 334cc single-cylinder liquid-cooled engine, and it is going to produce 30 bhp of power and 31 newton meters of torque compared to the other bikes. Yes, compared to the 42 and the Jawa, which are going to be producing 27 bhp and 28 newton meters of torque. Just some numbers out there for you, but all of that doesn't really matter too much. What matters is how are these bikes going to be received by the Indian motorcycling enthusiast once they hit the market. And because like they say, the true test of the success of any of these motorcycles, we can sit over here as reviewers and talk about it until the cows come home or the petrol runs out of the tank. But really, the true test of it is when the rubber hits the road and the cash registers get ringing. Okay, now for the all-important question. Royal Enfield versus Jawa. How do they stack up? Which company is poised to do better? And who's really going to disrupt the market? Well, I personally think, considering that I'm a marketing student formerly and I'm also a marketing practitioner, I really think a lot about branding and building sustainable competitive advantage and differentiating yourself from the rest of the competition. This is something that I'm really passionate about, and I think Royal Enfield clearly has an edge over Jawa in this particular case, mainly because they have been around for all of these years. When Jawa was gone, it was off the market shelves, Royal Enfield was actually charting a tremendous success story. Like, for those of you who don't know, from the late 90s up until now, Royal Enfield stock price has been shooting through the roof. They've been doing some incredible things, and a lot of people might find it fashionable to criticize them and to put them down and to take pot shots at them. But eventually, make no mistake about it, this is an Indian-run company which has gone ahead and done great things in the international market as well as domestically, and having that mind share, having that wallet space, and having the kind of brand loyalty that they've built up over the last 15 years is going to put them at a strategic advantage over any kind of competition. That is just the way it works. Jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai, and for the last 20 years, Royal Enfield has been so incredibly visible in the Indian market, and that I think is going to give them a huge leg up in this battle with Jawa. Also, you have to keep in mind that Royal Enfield has done so well that it is now actually graduating. It is elevating its line of offerings. It is moving from the 350cc or 500cc space to a more evolved line of motorcycles, as is witnessed by the 650cc twins, and that is just only the beginning of it. There is no saying how far they can go. Maybe they can even come out with an 800cc bike or a 1000cc bike in the next couple of years. It is all very exciting, and I for one cannot wait. But really what that means is that as Royal Enfield is moving up, Jawa is now coming in order to kind of try and take away some of that market share. And it is a little bit like when the younger brother in the family goes on to high school and starts kind of, learning a few tricks here and there, whereas the older brother has actually now moved on from high school to college and is looking to graduate. And that, I think, is what is happening with Royal Enfield. Overall, I think it really adds up and makes things very, very interesting for the Indian motorcycling enthusiast, because now there's so many different options to choose from. But coming back to Jawa itself, because that really is the topic of this particular video, I think they're really going to find a sweet spot, a niche for themselves in the market, because like I said earlier on, a lot of people who were born in the 80s and who grew up watching their cousins or their uncles or their neighbors ride around these Jawa bikes, I think are going to hark back to those fond memories, and especially now when it's being presented in such a beautiful modern package equipped with things like ABS and a lot of the other modern refinement and features. It is a no-brainer that they're going to love it, because nostalgia ultimately sells like anything, and the fact that these bikes are priced super competitively within the 1.5 to 1.7 lakh range, I think that's a small little price to pay for nostalgia. The real question is, can Jawa expand beyond that captive market that they have? Can they go out there and appeal to a larger audience? People who might be in their early 20s, people who right now ride bikes like KTM or Honda or TVS or Suzuki, can they snatch market share away from them and not just Royal Enfield? That is the million-dollar question. And also a lot of their success is going to depend upon how well they establish their dealer network and their after-sales service. That is a huge, huge question mark, because if you look at what Mahindra has done with the Mojo, they've done a great job. It's not a runaway success, that particular bike, but at the same time, their service centers and their dealerships, you cannot just find them all over even a city like Bangalore. They are few and far between, and they've not really been able to do what, for example, KTM or Bajaj or even Royal Enfield has done with their service centers and with their dealerships. And I think that is going to be key to determine what kind of an impact Jawa ultimately has on the Indian market. It is clear that they've done their homework in terms of coming out with beautiful looking exotic products that hark back to a simpler time, and they've captured the essence of that retro cool really well. But can they get their ducks in a row from a business standpoint as well and make sure that they execute flawlessly? Only time will tell, and I will be a very keen and a very interested observer, as I'm sure you will be as well. So that does it for my quick video here about the Jawa line of motorcycles and how they stack up against the Royal Enfield stable of bikes. What do you think? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. If you have any kind of questions, any observations, drop them over there and I shall try to get back to you as soon as I can. But for the meantime, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and being a part of the Savant Life. If this is your first time over here by any chance, then go ahead and hit the like button and also subscribe, because it only takes a second. While you're at it, click on the bell icon so that you can be notified when yours truly puts out more new content. I will see you the next time around, but until then, thank you so much for watching. Take care, ride safe, be good, and as always, have fun.